Welcome to By the Books, the podcast helping business owners navigate the complex world of business, tax, and bookkeeping. Now, to the owner and president of Irs Kline, Lindsay Kline.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Lindsay Kline with Irs Kline, honest, accurate bookkeeping performed on time. I'm here with Jeffrey Gonzales, our payroll guru.
Hello, Lindsay.
Thanks for joining me again.
Thanks for having me.
You can't get rid of me.
Well, you can't get rid of me. I thought it was the other way around.
No,
okay.
I'm keeping you.
Okay.
You know what's great about you, Jeffrey, and I've told you this. You do all the research, and you show up with your sparkling personality, and I really don't have to do much.
Okay,
so
yeah.
it works out great for me.
I see your strategy here. You have a good strategy.
So something we haven't talked a lot about is what you're an expert in. Payroll.
Yeah, payroll.
I mean, we've talked about different, we've drilled down on different specific topics related to payroll, the work opportunity tax credit. Did I say that right?
Yes.
We've talked about the employer retention tax credit.
Yep.
Did I do that one right?
Yep.
So, no, I didn't do that right. It was employee retention tax credit. See, I still can't get it right.
The employer gets the credit though. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So we talked about those things, but we haven't talked about payroll as a whole, like everything that goes into it, what people need to think about if they're thinking about starting to do their own payroll.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I know I've heard from plenty of people that tried to do it themselves and they ended up in a big mess because they tried to do it themselves. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it yourself, but you're here to tell people what they need to know if they decide to go that route, right?
What the process is, yeah. So
okay.
there's a lot to it, which is why most people outsource it. But there's something to be said for people who want to do that in-house or they can't afford to or whatever. So kind of an opportunity to help out those that have a different situation.
I would argue they cannot afford not to.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many of the situations that happen when something's not done right.
Yeah.
You know, when you're dealing with the IRS, there's no mercy.
No,
In fact, we're going to have an episode coming up, somebody that's specifically going to talk about Irs Payroll Penalties.
Yes. Yeah.
So listen to that episode too before you decide to do your own payroll.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a lot to it. So the reason why there's a lot of penalties is because there's a lot of timelines and deadlines and things that you need to keep up with. I mean, like I've told you before, I know payroll pretty well. Even I wouldn't do it myself because it's a pain. And the rules change a lot.
Me either.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even saying this from a selfish standpoint, like I'm trying to get people's business, because I don't do payroll. Yeah. I say, here's Jeffrey. Let me introduce you. He will take care of you.
Yeah.
So I'm not even saying this like I get some kind of kickback. I legitimately think people should just outsource it to experts that's all they do. And for what you guys charge at Pay Entry, no brainer to me.
Yeah. Honestly, it is true. It is true. But I mean, it's what are you getting for? What are you paying for when you outsource it? So we can go over all of that.
Yeah. So explain what's involved in doing payroll.
So the first thing that I'll say is I brought it up before, timelines and deadlines are the ones that really tend to kind of to grab people and cause the most problems for people because there's several different tax returns and there's several different tax agencies that you have to pay on time and then send them returns. So the one that everybody in this country has to deal with is the IRS. So there's federal taxes that need to be paid. And so that's federal income tax, that's Social Security, and that's Medicare. So those three are withheld from both the employer and the employee. And then paid. So Social Security and Medicare have flat rates. So Social Security is 12.6%. Yeah. And then Medicare is 2.9% total. Now,
should I Google this and verify that you got
verify it. It's been a little while since I've had to calculate it myself. Again, like I said, I outsource it. But that being said, it's 12.6% total and then 2.9% for Medicare.
I'll just insert here, subject to be changed, right? I mean, they could change this at any point.
They can change it at any point. And so those are some of the rules that you kind of have to keep up with.
Yep.
Now, the employer, most of you have the option, and everybody does, to withhold half of each of those Social Security and Medicare taxes from your employees. So then they pay an effective rate of 6.2% for the employee, and then it's 6.2, so it's 12.4%. I missed that. Yeah.
12.4%
Total.
is Social Security, right?
Yeah.
Or is that Social Security and...
No, 6.2% is just Social Security.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you have Medicare on top of that.
Then Medicare is 1.45% for each.
Okay.
Right?
But if I'm not mistaken, there's a limitation, right? It's only on the first part of your income for some of this stuff?
Yeah, so for Medicare, so Social Security has what's called a wage-based limit. And so the wage-based limit for Social Security changes actually pretty often. So
of course it does.
Yeah, well, so they change it every year.
So do they like to do the half penny thing where the first like 100,000 and half penny of your income is...
They don't do that. They keep it a little bit more simple than that. But
Thank goodness.
For 2022, once you make $147,000, then you no longer pay Social Security tax.
How much is it?
$147,000.
Well, that's a good problem to have. If you're bringing in six figures and you get up to that 147,
you no longer have to pay Social Security tax at all. So the employer and the employee, that's done. So that's 12.4% saved. And that's until the new calendar year when that wage base resets. Now, Medicare also has a wage base, but it works in the exact opposite way. So once you hit $200,000 in wages for Medicare, your Medicare wages, your Medicare goes up, right? But it only goes up for the employee. So the employer doesn't have to pay anything extra for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if your employees are making less than six figures, you really don't have to worry about these limitations, right?
Yeah. So if your employees aren't making that, then you don't have to worry about that. So you'll just charge the 6.2. You'll withhold 6.2 from them and 1.45 from them, and then you will also contribute the same. Then, when you hire an employee, you have to have them fill out a W-4. And on that W-4, they give you their status. So the number of exemptions they have and withholding amounts. And so that is what you use to calculate how much federal income tax that you now withhold from the employee. So that number is not a flat rate like the other ones. It varies by person, the single, the married, head of household, and number of exemptions. Yeah. So based on that, that's how you'll calculate how much they earn. And there's calculators that you can use to help you calculate this. But essentially, the IRS has a schedule based off of how much the employee will make in a year and the number of exemptions and their filing status. That comes up with how much they need to contribute by the end of the year. And usually you break that up into little pieces throughout the year on their paychecks.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how often have you seen that get screwed up?
So that one's not as bad to mess up because it's an estimate in the end, right? That's why you file your taxes and you get a return or you have to pay. It's because you misestimated.
You mean refund? Refund?
You get a refund from it because you misestimated. So you might have overpaid, which is why you get a return. That's not free money. That's money that you had before that you gave them to hold on to.
Right.
Until they give it back to you when you file your taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people get a refund, they just had too much taken out of their paychecks.
Yeah, exactly. And the IRS has a really awesome form where you can go on there and it gives you your tax calculator. So you can go in, you can put in all of your information, a lot of info about you, and it'll calculate at the very end how much you should withhold by the end of the year for federal taxes. So if you want to get it really close and not have to make a payment or expect a refund, you can go in there and work on that.
I'm sure everybody would love. They're running right now to their computer, Jeffrey. They would love to do that.
I do, though. I'm a big fan of it.
Favorite thing to do.
For me, I would love to write a $20 check to the IRS every year when I file my taxes because then they hadn't held on to my money all year, interest free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Touche. Yeah. But I don't think I'll ever.
Yeah.
like, if I don't have to go to the IRS website, I'm not going to the IRS website.
And it's not easy to find the calculator either. So you have to like type in like tax estimator, but it is there and it is pretty intuitive. So
this is the difference between me and you, as we've already established. You like all that research. You geek out on that stuff.
I do.
I would rather like pull my toenails out. I don't want to do it. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
I'll
It's not
just
fun.
overpay. I'll get my refund. I'll be perfectly happy. We'll be okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I can live with giving the government a little bit of an interest-free loan.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Loan.
Because at the end of the day, I can rest in the knowledge that I did not have to go dig up on the IRS website a calculator.
Yeah.
But maybe you can do it for me. You can let me know how.
I can. Absolutely.
It's hard for self-employed people, though, because there's so many variables.
There are.
Like for business owners, you never know from 1 month to the next, most of the time, how your business is going to go.
Yeah.
You can make predictions, you can make projections, forecasting, all that. But at the end of the day, you don't know. You can't see the future. So it can be really difficult to calculate that sometimes for self-employed people.
Absolutely. And, worst case scenario, when you file your taxes at the end of the year, you may have to owe, or you'll get that refund, like I said. Or it's not uncommon for people at the end of the year to kind of go in and do an evaluation to see where they are. Like, oh, have I paid enough? Have I not? I usually do that in November. I'll run through and I'll look and see where I'm at because I can increase or decrease
of course you do.
accordingly.
Yeah, of course you do.
Again, noting out on. Yeah.
Of course you do. This is why I love you, Jeffrey. You and I are yin and yang.
I love it.
All right. So what else do people need to know?
Well, so now we've talked about how much it cost, and we're still just on IRS.
I was going to say, we are just on IRS right now. We have not even switched to any other governmental entity at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So every state has their own. Every state also has taxes. Not every state charges income tax. So we're both here in Texas. So Texas doesn't charge an income tax. There's a few other states. I know that Florida, Nevada, there's a few others that are doing it. And so there's no income tax there.
I'm just going to say God bless Texas.
Yeah, for real, though. It's a huge savings.
I mean, I don't want to get political here, but God bless Texas.
It's a nice perk.
I could live anywhere else, Jeffrey. Every time I leave, I can't wait to get back. Yeah. I am definitely a proud Texan, born and bred.
Texas has everything you need, though.
It does.
Right?
It so does.
You need mountains, go south, water, there's an ocean.
Yeah.
Like, where else do you need to go?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the most beautiful state. I'm not ignorant, right? Like, I get it. There's much more beautiful states out there, but... if I'm being honest, I don't think I could live more than 5 miles from a QT.
Because you got to go get your gallon of iced tea every day.
And here's the thing is most states do not appreciate tea. Like Texas does.
Oh, my goodness. There's whole places that sell nothing but tea.
Yes.
Have you seen these before?
Yes. And it's even got Texas as their logo.
Oh, but it's a big deal. Yeah, sweet tea.
You can go in there and they have, I don't know how many
probably
different...
like 20 to 30 flavors. Of tea. And they're all delicious. And I'm working my way through them all.
And that's all they sell is iced tea.
In the gallon, in so many different sizes. Texas takes... Tea seriously.
Yes.
And I have to say, so I'm not a native Texan. I know. But that being said...
We'll forgive you. You got here as fast as you could.
I did. But so I have to agree with you. Tea is not nearly as important.
No.
Like the way Washington looks at coffee is the way Texas looks at tea. Like it's that big of a deal.
Well, we like our coffee too,
We do like our coffee, but tea by far more.
No, tea for sure. So if you go to another state... Now, in the South, I would say by and large appreciates tea in general.
Yeah.
I don't know as much as Texas, but you go into some of the northern states, California even, they just don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you they have tea, but then it's like in the soda, in
the press thing?
Yeah, like what do you call those things?
Fountains.
The soda fountain. Like, I'm sorry, that is not iced tea.
My tea doesn't belong here.
Like, I need to educate you guys. That is not iced tea. I'm just sorry. So I'm sorry. I will never be able to live in your state because you don't understand. So now I feel like I need to travel when I leave the state. I need to bring an iced tea maker and my iced tea bags.
That's not a bad idea.
But I don't even do that here, Jeffrey. I just go to QT. I mean, we've already talked about this. For $1.29, I can get, how many ounces was it? We decided.
I don't remember how big it is. But
we had a whole story on our, which episode was that? That was our emotional intelligence episode.
I feel like it was more than a half gallon.
Like Frito looked it up. It was like 52 ounces of tea I can get for $1.29. Like, am I going to brew my own? No, I'm not.
It's not even worth your time at that point.
I mean, this is why I'm saying I can't live anywhere besides Texas. I'm sorry.
So you're stuck in Texas.
Yeah. Well, I'm not stuck in Texas.
No, you want to be.
I am a proud Texan. Yeah. I'm happy to live here.
You'll just never. Anyway, you'll never be happy anywhere else.
That was my side tangent. But as an added bonus, we have no state income tax.
There is no state income tax, and like I said, there's only a few others that don't. And then, so for the ones that do, the state income tax works a lot like the federal, right? So it's based off of the number of exemptions. The state has their own calculation tables that you use. So again, much like that. And then every state has state unemployment. So that is the collective fund that you pay for unemployment benefits, right? So that's the...
Yeah, we do have that.
Yeah. And so that's an employer paid, employer only. So that's not something that you take from your employees. So that's a cost that you have to consider when you're hiring employees, is that there's going to be taxes that you have to pay for that you can't withhold from them. Unemployment is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, state unemployment tax is the only tax you can control, because it is based off of the number of claims you've had. So,
well, you can control to a degree,
I suppose. Yeah. But if you have no claims at all, then your cost of your percentage, your unemployment rate decreases year over year until it hits the bottom. I think in Texas it's 0.6, and there's several different, every state has the minimum. And then, however, businesses that have like a lot of turnover, hospitality, restaurants, stuff like that, they'll have a higher, and there's usually a max percentage of how much can be charged for state unemployment insurance. Now, those also usually have a wage base, anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 in a calendar year.
I think it's 9 here in Texas.
In Texas, it is, yeah.
So the first $9,000, you pay the state unemployment taxes, and then after they earn $9,000, you don't have to pay any more on that. Yeah.
So just the first $9,000 per employee per year. So if you have an employee that starts in the middle of June, that's when their first start, their starts,
right.
Yeah.
So regardless of when they start, it's just their first $9,000 of earnings.
Yep, in a calendar year. And then January 1st, it all restarts, and you start paying that again.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's federal unemployment. So federal unemployment, which is called FUTA, which is a tax that kind of helps states that can't afford their unemployment claims.
What does FUTA stand for?
Federal Unemployment Tax
I never know
Agency.
What the A is.
I think it's agency. Yeah.
Do we need to Google this?
We're going to Google this now.
Okay. Because I never want to say that one, because I'm like, I don't know what the A means. Have you heard FUI?
SUI is state unemployment insurance.
But isn't there a FUI also, federal unemployment insurance?
It would be, they would be talking about FUTA.
Right.
Yeah.
But I never knew what the A was. So
but FUI, F-U-I, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard FUI Sui. FUI Sui.
FUI Sui.
It sounds like a dish you would find at the Chinese buffet.
FUI Sui.
FUI Sui.
Yeah, you're right. It does. It does. So let's see. So FUTA means have super low service here.
I was going to say, these Google skills.
Oh, it's the Act. Federal Unemployment Tax Act.
There you go.
Yeah. So
see, even the Payroll Guru didn't know this until now.
How often do you have to tell people? I don't think I've ever had somebody ask me what FUTA means, actually.
If you give an acronym here, I'm going to
you're going to ask. Okay, so no more acronyms until I know. So federal unemployment is, federal unemployment is 6%. However, you do get what's called a credit for paying your state unemployment on time. And so there's benefits for paying those on time and making sure that those returns are filed on time, in which case you get a 5.4% credit on your federal unemployment tax rates every year.
Because, we just got to make it more complicated.
Because you got to make it more complicated. Well, they penalize you heavily for not paying your state. It's to encourage you to make sure you're paying that. That's a significant difference. And then, so the federal wage base limit is $7,000. So the first $7,000 that an employee makes every year is now taxable, hopefully at the 0.6% rate, because you've been paying everything on time.
Now let's talk about remitting these things, because here's where I see a lot of problems come in, right? And usually by the time people are talking to me,
there's a problem.
And I'm sure that's true for you too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, so when you remit this money, right, you're pulling it, you're not really physically taking anything from the employee. You're just reducing their paycheck by these amounts, and then it's the employer's responsibility to remit it to the IRS.
Yeah.
Now, have you known anyone these days that actually physically remits it with a check in the mail?
I don't even know. I don't. And I don't even know if the IRS will accept that anymore. So more and more agencies are going digital. In fact, Texas now requires you to file your state unemployment return digitally. You can't send them a return anymore.
Okay.
And more federal more and more agencies are going in that direction. The federal, I don't think, has done it all the way, but I don't think you can send like a check for that anymore. I think they want you to go in.
I was going to say, that would be very risky given that a lot of stuff gets lost in the mail.
Yeah.
And I've heard the IRS has just hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail. They're overwhelmed.
And it takes so long for them to go through stuff. So,
So probably not a good idea.
Probably not a good idea.
But I will say this. If you remit it online, you have to be very careful. All those fields that you fill out. Yeah. It is very easy to select the wrong quarter because they have you select what quarter you're paying, quarter 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? So you got to make sure you're putting it in the right quarter, because I'll tell you what, you pay the right amount and put it in the wrong quarter, the IRS is not just going to say, oh, I'm sure they meant.
No.
I mean, even though they're overpaying this quarter and underpaying this by the same exact amount, they don't just move it over for you.
The IRS assumes nothing.
No, they do not.
They assume nothing.
Even if you call them and tell them, listen, I meant for that to be the other quarter. Nope, you've already been penalized for that quarter. They still expect you to pay it, and then you can request a refund for the quarter. They don't just move it over.
No. Oh, yeah. No, it's a big thing. So now you have to pay the correct quarter.
Right.
Plus the penalties and interest. Which the interest compounds daily.
Yep.
And then you request for them to send you, which may even require an amended return. So if you pay like a past quarter incorrectly, you may have to file an amended return to request that credit. So there's a lot.
I'm talking specifically when you're paying the deposits.
Oh, yeah,
like, you know,
every month?
Yes.
Yeah, going in there.
Or for some people, it's every pay period.
Yeah, it is. So that was the next thing I was going to talk about was the deadlines for making those payments, because all of those taxes that we've just talked about, they all have different deadlines. So we'll start from the beginning. So Social Security, Medicare, and federal unemployment tax that's withheld from the employees. Those are all due depending on how much liability you accumulate, are either due the month after the end of the month, which those check dates fell in. So anything January 1st through January 31st is now due on the 15th of February. And or if you hit certain limits, your payments are now due every week. So if you pay, if you pay Sunday through Wednesday, that payment is due Friday. If the check date is what I mean. So if your check date falls on Sunday through Wednesday, then that payment is due Friday. And if the check date is for Thursday through Saturday, then it's due the next Wednesday.
Because IRS can't make anything simple.
No, yeah. See, I'm struggling here trying to remember this stuff, but exactly. So depending on how much your liability is, you either have one frequency or the next. And then on top of that is if you have over $100,000 in liability from a single pay period, you have to deposit that next day.
Oh, wow. So you only have 24 hours.
So yeah, you have to deposit it the next day. So and then once you've hit that mark just one time, you're now a semi-weekly filer for the rest of the year, which is what they call it when you have to pay it every week. So there's a lot of things to kind of keep track of, as you can see. So if you hit this, then you got to do this. Yeah.
And they have no mercy.
No.
There is no mercy. If you pay it one day past the date you were supposed to pay, you will be getting a letter from the IRS. With likely a penalty. Yeah, so their standard penalty is usually around 10%. So just 10% from the top of whatever you owed. Now, I have noticed if you're good about paying, like you have a long-standing good payment history, and then you happen to be a day or two late, they usually just send a letter that just says, you were late, but we're going to waive the penalty this time, you know? So I have noticed that when that's happened, but it's just usually after a long-standing good payment history.
And I don't even know what the rules are. Like, I'm sure they have like a rule if like you've been in business and paying for this long, or if you've made all of your 20 payments and every one or whatever. Like, I'm sure they have rules like that. I'm not sure what they are, but you're right. So they'll get a letter that just, don't do this again type thing. Yeah. And then you just make sure that you're on time from there on. So you don't get a penalty. Yeah.
But you do have to be very careful. You select the right quarter, even the right year. Because sometimes you might be paying for a past year, like if it rolls over to another year. You just got to be very mindful of the year and the quarter that you're putting in there, because the IRS, they're going to put it exactly where you tell it to put it, and they're not going to apply it anywhere else.
They do exactly what you tell them. They do not assume anything. So. No. Yeah, exactly. And then so that's Social Security, Medicare, and federal unemployment tax. Every state usually has different rules. However, in general, many of them will follow whatever your federal frequency is, luckily. So in general, like if you only have to make your payments or file your returns for the federal agencies once a month, then you only have to do that for them. Make the payments once a month for the state. And then most unemployment insurances are quarterly. So a lot of times you make your payments just once a quarter for the whole amount that you accumulate. But again, varies from state to state.
Okay, fun times.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep track of. So get a calendar just for payroll and just circle in red all of the dates that you have.
I'm going to let you do it.
That's the choice that you made. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, how much am I potentially crippling my potential growth by spending 2 hours a day doing bookkeeping?
Exactly.
So I don't even do my own. Yeah. And I see the importance of it, and I don't even do my own.
Yeah.
So
that says something.
Right?
That says something.
Sure does.
So there's that. There's that as well.
All right, how can people find you if they would like to pay the $72 a month and not worry about any of this?
They can give me a call. My number is 214-551-4650, or they can send me an email at jgonzales@payentry.com.
How do you spell Gonzales?
Gonzales.
Yeah, you need to put that in there because there's like 15 ways to spell your name.
There is 15 ways to spell my name. And there's also like 15,000 Jeffrey Gonzaleses. Have you Googled me before? Like there's tons of them. I am not even close to being the most important one. Yeah.
Well, rest assured, you're my favorite.
Thank you.
You're my favorite, Jeffrey Gonzales. And I'm Lindsay Kline with Kline. Honest, accurate bookkeeping performed on time. If you need help with your bookkeeping, not payroll, that's Jeffrey, but everything else related to bookkeeping, give us a call. We'd love to help. Until next time, thanks for joining us, everyone.
By the Books is presented by Kline. Honest, accurate bookkeeping performed on time. For more information on Kline services or to get a hold of Lindsay, visit Kline.com or email info@Kline.com.
The information provided on this website and podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials available are for general information purposes only. Information provided by Kline may not constitute the most up-to-date legal or other information. Listeners should contact their attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal matter and should refrain from acting on the basis of this information without first seeking legal advice from counsel in the relevant jurisdiction. Only your individual attorney can provide assurances that the information contained herein and your interpretation of it is applicable or appropriate to your particular situation.